Hello everyone, welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick. I'm out on the road. It's going to be echoey because I haven't got any fancy mics and I'm in a bit of a cavernous van, taking the panel off because it's basically what I used to walk me dogs in. So yeah, I'm gonna sort of touch on a few things today that I've picked up on the show last night, and also look at the style of football and the evolution of West Ham. Make comparisons to Nottingham Forest as well. So as always, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe and don't forget, drop a like on the video because it does really help us. So first of all, thank you very much to everyone that tuned in last night, and to particularly the callers and Kat at the end, who offered some balance to the argument. Really, really good call. Thank you very much. Make sure you call in again. And I think you could see from how well that was received in the comments as well, that we are all West Ham fans at the end of the day, and she was right. We all should be pulling in the same direction. We've just got different ideas on things. My mindset has not changed on Potter in the slightest. I'm going to stick with it. But everyone is entitled to their opinion. You know, we're all grown ups. We've all got our own beliefs. I just think it would be disastrous for us to stick with Potter. But anyway, that aside, I saw Tottenham lose to Nottingham Forest last night, 2-1. Didn't see the game because we was streaming. But then I looked at the stats, and the stats were very Nottingham Forest-like. And that was, they won the game with a 0.6 XG versus Tottenham's 2.3 or whatever it was, with 30% possession to Tottenham's 30. Tottenham had 21 shots on goal. They had 4. This is a mirror image of what we were like when David Moyes was in his pomp at West Ham. And I think that they're probably going to go the same way unless they can handle the transition better than we did. Because transition, you must. You get found out. And if you go back to when David Moyes first started, like I've always said, David Moyes did well when he came in. I say the same now. He probably always will when he goes into a job, Sunderland aside, because he is a ripcord manager. You know, break this glass, pull this cord in case of emergency. Because that style of football, it's got a short shelf life. It really has. And it's so effective. Nottingham Forest are brilliant at it. It's like you're sitting back, you're absorbing all the pressure, and then you're just committing a robbery every week. Because you just sucker punching the opposition. You're hitting them on the counter. And it's a viable tactic, and it can work really well, like it did with West Ham. We had some great times doing that, you know, especially when we had the likes of Lingard. It's counter-attack. You sit back, go. But then what happens is, especially in the Premier League, and especially when you are lethal at it, the Premier League wise up, the opposition wises up, and they stop allowing you to get in behind them. They treat you with more respect. And they go, nah, you're not doing that to us this week. Come at us. Have a go at playing football against us and taking us apart. And that is when the counter-attack goals dry up. When the opposition sit a little bit deeper, they're a little bit less expressive, and they show you more respect, then you hit on hard times. And that is what happened at the second half of the season before we got Paqueta in. Rob Newman came in. And you can go back and you can look at the comments and I did last night. They're still there. They're still on the West Ham page from Rob Newman, from David Moyes as well, where he basically said what I'm saying to you now. We've been found out. We need to play football in a different way. Teams just don't allow you to rob them anymore. That's literally it. They go, no, I'm not having this anymore. We're coming at you. We're trying to break you down, and you're just making us look stupid because you're hitting us on the counter attack. So they go over to you. You try and break us down. Two completely different styles and ways of playing football. I do think that this will happen with Nottingham Forest because they are lethal on the counter attack, and they're winning against the XG. Like David Moyes did at the first part of his last season, was winning against XG every week. He went back. So he binned the experiment of trying to change the way that we was playing, and he went back to counter-attack. And it worked for a short while until it didn't. And the wheels came flying off. And it always will. That will happen. You know, you've got to expect your opposition to be stupid to let you do that. So every team that plays that way, if you do want to sort of maintain any sort of level of success, you have to transition at some point, and it is a big transition. To go from a deep defensive counter-attacking team to a team that all of a sudden have to have the ball and break the opposition down, it's two completely different ways of playing football. So it's short-sighted in a degree. I'm not blaming Nottingham Forest for doing it. They're having a great time, as we did, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because we needed that at the time. But when the time comes and you have to make that transition, which absolutely will happen with Forest as well, they're going to have to handle that transition a lot better than us, or they're going to end up just like us. It's a big change, You've got to have the right man in place first and foremost. You have to have the right man that's capable of coaching that style of football. And you have to get the recruitment right. But ultimately, what people are calling out for is for us to go back their rose tint into when we used to be this deep sort of counter-attacking team. We didn't change away from that style because they were listening to the fans. So that weren't the case at all. They moved away from that style because it just wasn't working anymore. The results weren't there. So we had to adapt. We had to change. And like I said, in fairness, as we've proved, and a lot of other teams have proved, Leicester won the league playing counter-attacking football. They got found out. Also, when David Moyes was here, because if you're going to play deep defensive football and be bloody good at it and absorb all of that pressure and not get punished, you need to be good at it. We had the best central defensive midfielder in the world, possibly, at that time, playing for us. And that covered for a multitude of sins. And that started to go wrong when Declan Rice identified the fact that he was far better than the player that he was doing all the dog work for. And he was like, no, I'm fed up of sitting deep, doing all the cleaning up, while Thomas Souček does bugger all, wanders upfield, gets a goal and gets all the adulation. I'm better than Thomas Souček. So that was a failure as well. There should have been some better recruitment. We should have tried to evolve rather than just rely on the big players. We should have built around them. We never really did. So that's when it started, when Declan Rice's role changed. Because if you remember that last season, when we almost got relegated in the Premier League, when we got the Europa League win, the Conference League win, that was when there was a slight alteration with Declan Rice moving a little bit more advanced and Thomas Souček coming back. Thomas Souček couldn't do what Declan Rice did. Simply couldn't do it. And that's what I mean. To pull that off, you've got to be very good defensively, which Nottingham Forest are. They're tremendous. What they've got is two amazing centre-backs, and they've got a really good, solid midfield. But what we had was solid defenders, but an amazing CDM. Once we sort of lost that piece, which we did even when Declan Rice was still here, because he'd moved out of that position, it all fell to pieces. But nonetheless, to get the breakaway goals, to play direct football with players that thrive on the shoulder, they need to be able to get in behind. If the opposition simply play a deeper line and don't let you in behind, you're not going to score those goals. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I do think that Nottingham Forest, ultimately, as good a season as they're having, and congratulations to them, I do think that they'll suffer the same fate, because I don't think you can get away with playing counter-attacking football perpetually in the Premier League. Teams will just basically start giving you a bit of respect, and when that happens, that is when you hit on troubles, Let me know what your thoughts are anyway. And where do we go from here? Because like I said, we need to... We're still in that sort of transitional period, although we might not be next year, because a lot of the players that we're brought in to help us play a more creative style, they could be sold on. So we could be back to the drawing board next year. We could be back to needing... It could be break glass, rip the cord. We could be back to trying to sort of go on the counter-attack again, reshaping the squad to play that, which will be good for a year or two until it gets found out. Well, it could be good. You've got to get the pieces right. To be a good counter-attacking team, you need the right players. Whatever happens, we need to get the recruitment right this year. We need to make sure that the manager is correct. See, I don't think Potter's a counter-attacking manager either. I don't really know what his style is, apart from hold on to the ball until the opposition fall asleep and then try and score. But there isn't going to be any sort of blistering attacks under Potter. That's not going to happen. So, again, I don't really see anything that suggests that Potter is the right man for this. I don't. They've got to get it right. They've got to get some advice from somebody that knows what they're talking about in the world of football. that can advise them, give them a roadmap on how we can progress to where we want to be. But the trouble is at West Ham, I don't think there is a plan. I just think it's a case of, well, we just want to win and be in Europe, and I don't really care how we do it. There's no plan. We're short-sighted, and it shows, and that's how we've ended up in this fucking mess. Because we've had real good opportunities to handle this situation so much better than we have. You know, Tim probably could have helped David Moyes succeed as well. I know that David Moyes didn't want to work for him, but if it had been forced to work for him, if Tim had been brought in as his boss, as we all thought was going to be the case, and he became more of a coach, maybe they could have worked together, but they was never going to work with each other when they was almost pitted against each other. You know, it was a tug of war that was introduced by Sullivan with two strong-headed people that both wanted power. So that was never going to work. Every step of the way, we've been hamstrung by the poor leadership of this club. So, yeah, anyway, bit of a random ramble. I know it is. I'm just saying, a lot of people, myself included, that sometimes you think, oh, can't we just go back to doing this, playing counter-attack? Well, not really. Not unless you want to go back to the drawing board. We've been there, we've done it. It was fun for a while, basically committing daylight robbery against teams every week, until it ain't. Then you're just sitting deep and there's no counter-attack, and that ain't fun because they stop letting you do it. Anyway, enjoy your Tuesday. Speak to you soon. Come on, you irons.